Okay, our next caller is Kirsten from British Columbia.
Kirsten from British Columbia, are you there?
Hi there.
How you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Doing great. What did you think of the readout of the Union and Communion Consciousness Strike?
The part of it that I heard is fantastic. I was a little bit distracted with dogs and kids and husband at the beginning there, so I had half an ear on it. But my husband and I together, but also individually, we have been working on our personal sovereignty for many years now. So when I found your work, it's just completely in alignment with what it is that we're working on right now too.
Beautiful. So what questions did you want to have today?
Well, I have been on so many of your shows and never gotten through to talk to you. So I just want the basic question that everyone asks. What's my galactic history? I'm just curious.
What's your galactic history? What year were you born?
1972.
You sure?
Yeah. It was towards the end of the year, so it wasn't even close.
All right, so there's a lot of let's just say confused spirits at your birth. That's why I'm questioning if the date is accurate.
That's what I'm told.
All right, just let me scan a little deeper here. Did you have a twin or anything like that?
Not that I know of.
I don't see it in fetal, and I don't see it post. But there's absolutely another strand of DNA that's not yours in your birth process. Where were you born?
Kamloops, British Columbia.
How far away is that from, let's say, Vancouver?
About 4-hour drive northeast.
So, right at your birth, another spirit came into your body, and you as the baby agreed to let the spirit in, and it used your birthing process to forget who it was. And once it forgot, because birth is the forgetting of who we were, and once it forgot who it was allowed to go and have a life review, because it had not had a life review since its last death, like several 100,000 years ago. Like, this thing had been alive and alive and alive, and had been looking for the right person and the right DNA lineage that would agree to take this on. So you have, all right, so I just got to pull the curtain back here. So what we would consider a off-world being that no longer had a physical body, it was just an energy body, though every now and then it could manifest a body, but it costed a lot of energy. It no longer fed on humans or animals to gain energy for a body, so it had become a discorporeate being for a very long time, probably like 125,000 years since it really had taken a body, and it had been roaming the lands until finally it found an industrialized area in which it could possibly find hope for itself, passing on. And when it found you as a fetus at the hospital, it implored your spirit guides to make at least the offer to you that was about to turn as the baby and the water to break. And your spirit kind of just did this open arms things and just sucked this thing right in and allowed it to have a birth actually as its death.
Hmm.
And then it immediately to the astral world, and it left a light body life review inside your Akashic record. I have never, ever, ever seen this. Ever. Ever. Ever seen this.
All right. So what does this mean for me? Like, how does that affect me now?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I've never been stumped like this. I'm still trying to figure out how it is using a birthing process as its death process.
Did it leave me after that? Or is this something
it's gone, and it left you the gift of its Akashic record of everything it's done in the last 2,300,000 years.
Oh.
That's its gift. All its
All right.
treasures are yours.
Wish I knew how to access that.
I think you eventually will be able to, if you can reach high frequency again. It's important to understand that birth is not the highest frequencies of life that we have. Giving birth comes close to it. And then there are ecstatical, mystical moments in which we can exceed our total potential energies beyond our expectations. And when you get into those really high frequencies, maybe think about taking a plant medicine aid that some of those guides and guardians who brought the idea to you at your birth will be there in contractual obligation to lead you through the gifts. Now, how does this relate to your galactic history? You don't have any previous relations to this being that I can scan in 50, 80 million years, anything of relevance at all.
Oh.
Now, to answer your galactic history question, you're a healer through and through. You've done the warrior thing, you've done the defender thing, you've done the scientist thing, you've done the lover, the haters, and everything in between. But the thing that is over and over and over in your galactic history is, I am a healer. I am a healer of such unique potential that each lifetime I choose to engage my divinity source, I find ways to heal millions of beings. That's my choice. And that's what I see in your galactic history record.
Okay, next caller is Nastasia Pulios from Sydney.
Natasha from Sydney, are you there?
Yes, I am, Andrew. How are you?
Good. How are you doing today?
I'm doing excellently. Thank you very much. I'm so excited that you took my call.
All right. How did you find out about me?
I'm not sure initially through a friend, I think, but my husband actually spoke to you earlier in the year.
Ah, okay. So what did you want to talk about today?
Well, I do have my little one who just woke up not too long ago. So if time permits, I'd just love to really get a little bit more of an idea about, I guess, where I'm heading and how I can step up in my sovereignty and, I guess, start doing the role that I'm here to do. I can see it in some sort of form, but it hasn't really taken shape. And because I have the little baby, yeah.
How old is the baby?
She's 8 months, actually.
8 months.
Yeah.
My producer here, Robert, his baby is just over 3 months now. Amarisa. So you got 5 months on him. He still hasn't had, the 8 months sleep yet.
Yeah. Some nights I don't either.
So let me look here. So what year were you born?
1985.
All right, so you've got a whole bunch of stuff in your potentiality field here.
Okay.
Is it fair to say at a young age you thought you knew what you were going to do and something changed?
I have always felt that I'm here to help others, and I've always felt very, very grounded in love and being love. But yeah, I did go through some difficult times in my teenage years.
What changed? Did you have like a punk rock era, or?
No, I think that I don't think anything changed in me too dramatically, but I got very, very disconnected from who I was. I feel when I went through a lot of trauma, PTSD, emotional stuff, depression, anxiety.
From what? What created that?
Oh, it was kind of an accumulation of life events, parents divorcing and people passing away and HSC years and possibly other stuff going on.
Any drugs during the time?
No, nothing like that.
I don't know. I see like this clear moment where something happened to you. I'll come back to that.
Okay.
So what year was that your parents got divorced?
I think it was 2002 or 3. I just know I was in my HSC year, so I was 17 at the time.
Yeah.
And look, I've done a lot of personal work on myself and personal development, and we've recently moved with my family and I all the way from Sydney up in the Byron Shire and looking to move in the hinterland just to kind of follow our heart and our spirit's calling.
To do what?
Just to be in an environment which facilitates, I guess, being able to hear that inner spirit and not being clouded by the density of the energy in Sydney and all the old paradigms that kind of come with that.
So I understand wanting to live out in the country. I live out in the country.
Yeah.
There's also a fine line between living out in a country and living it out in a community that tries to support other spiritual ideologies.
Yeah.
And you said you're in Byron Bay as I hear the baby singing.
Yeah. Would I be able to grab her for a sec?
Sure. Go ahead.
Thanks.
What's she saying, Robert?
I can't tell.
Robert's been doing this, identify the baby's messages.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, I just can't believe that you actually answered my call just as she was waking up. But yeah, so I guess we moved up here just because we were called to do so, and we felt that call. So yeah, it's been very challenging, and we've just moved into a rental, and which is not working out so well either. So
Because Byron Bay is not the place for you.
okay.
I get so much good and so much bad from that particular city. And I'm not knocking the city. It's just, it's a nexus point for people who want to do stuff and people who pretend to do stuff.
Yeah. So we are looking at a property that is pretty much.
Hey, how you doing?
Hi. That's Aurelia, my little daughter. She's a little cherub.
Aww.
That we pretty much purchased in inland of Nimbin, so kind of an hour inland of Byron, I would say.
I'm just not that like in that area for you.
Okay.
Be willing to look further. You've got the rental for now, but willing to look further. If you're gonna go country, go country. Don't go Byron Bay.
Yeah, so we've pretty much bought this place in Lillian Rock, which is an hour inland. What are you feeling of that?
Feel it out. You could always sell it again. It's no big deal.
Yeah.
Always make your money back on it. There's enough people from Byron Bay that want to do the same thing as you. Get out of that city.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go enjoy
And
it.
look, I guess for me, the main reason of calling in is because I fully just honor and respect the work that you do. And there's a lot of information going on out there, but it's really great to hear from a neutral perspective. And I really have been just trying to get a little bit of clarity on my direction career-wise. I'm obviously a mother. I've got a beautiful 3.5 going on 4-year-old son who's been my little master, who's been a huge mirror to reflect me exactly where I'm at. And my beautiful Aurelia, completely different energy come through with her.
Okay. What education do you
And-
have?
In the past, I was working as a psychologist before I stopped to have the kids, and I went back to it and I kind of stopped again.
So you had
and
your
look-
own practice, or did you work for a big firm?
No, I was working in private practice in the end after doing some government work.
Did you like private practice?
I liked it and I didn't. I enjoyed working in private practice because I had the one-on-one work with clients, which I did enjoy, but I think I fell out of love with psychology. I found that it was a bit limiting in things.
Yeah. And you can use that degree and take in all this other natural livingness stuff, as well as specialize in hypnosis and hypnotherapy and do past life regressions and make a fortune at it. I want you to know that. A fortune.
Okay.
Many psychologists who actually truly awaken and get out of the science and do the guided meditation as hypnosis can be incredibly powerful healers and past life regressors. Incredibly
okay.
clearing out the most ancient of traumas from thousands of births simultaneously. Okay?
Right.
But you got to be willing to take that up as a different form of psychological healing journey.
Yeah, look, I'm totally open to, whatever's out there and whatever I'm meant to be doing. And I know it's some form of healing modality anyway. And I was kind of going in terms of the direction of being a coach and doing like women's circles and retreats and things like that.
It all depends on the clientele that you create from the community that you're going to impact. So now you find yourself on the outside of the cities, but next to a city that's half pretenders, half doers.
Yeah.
Trying to start a psychological business that uses spirit when half the people there are judgy as hell and the other half the people don't know their ass from a hole in the ground.
Yeah.
Okay? So you find yourself in the wrong area to be doing that, in my opinion. Now, opinions are like...
Even if it was a online, like a Skype thing or...
Yes. But how do you get your name out there? That's the key. This is where you have to be willing to market yourself, use your existing degrees that you already have, and whether it's an email correspondence thing that talks about psychological tips for parents or kids that parents that have kids that are autistic or super smart or genius or spiritual kids, tools and tips how to raise them. And then until you gather enough people through a Facebook or your own email list, until such a time you want to promote yourself as someone that's giving regular advice and a way for them to get regular advice from you, be it a blog, a show, an email, that comes once a month.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And then women's retreats, you're talking after you've built up presence, absolutely.
Yeah.
Books, again, after you've built up a presence, yes. Can you do it? Absolutely. Can you do it with a 3-year-old and an 18-month-old or a 4-year-old and an 18-month-old? What's your husband's support in it?
Well, you spoke to my husband, Terry. He's very, very supportive. He's trying to, I guess, find his own way as well.
So what's he doing as a job?
He's doing electronic security at the moment.
I remember him now. I remember talking to him.
Yeah, he had a very different chat with you than what he expected, I think. So
Yes.
it was definitely what he needed to hear, but
Yeah.
no, he was hoping to probably hear a bit more about on a soul level where he's come from and those types of things. So
No,
yeah.
he heard exactly what he needed to hear for his change to go through. All that other
Yeah.
stuff is just fluffer stuff.
Yeah, we trust that.
Yeah. And you know, on your level right now, it's straight up 3D business savvy for you. Because you can
What
go
you
and learn a healing modality like craniosacral therapy in 6 months, be rated level one with working on some of the myofascial skills. You know, you can go do an 8-month extended class on hypnosis and regression therapy, and with your psychological background, already be ready to go and take on clients.
Mm-hmm.
You could specialize in doing it for children.
Okay.
Okay? There's all sorts of things. Hey, how you doing, Aurelia?
She's good.
Hey, let me read her real quick.
Okay.
Okay, who were you before you were born 8 months ago?
Yeah, she was
Okay.
born on Valentine's Day, actually, this year.
All right, I'm just reading who she was in the astral world real quick.
Yeah.
So her last lifetime before she is her, she was a man living in the northern Arctic. So like on like really North Arctic, I would almost say an Inuit Indian on the highest North Arctic.
That's funny because she looks like she's got some sort of Indian with her beautiful Oriental looking eyes, and we always make jokes that, you know, am I sure Terry's the dad? Because he looks like some sort of an Indian American or something.
That's interesting. So
Yeah.
going from cold to hot was a huge change.
Yeah.
He passed on in a some kind of cold weather accident where their furnace or their fuel system didn't work, and he passed on at like a 19-year-old kid.
Right.
And as soon as he went into the astral world and had a life review, he was back within 6 months of passing from his last life. And this is Aurelia.
Wow.
Now, before this young gentleman, he's got a long sordid affair of she has a long sort of affair with criminality.
Right.
Almost like the Soprano crime family kind of energy behind him.
Wow.
Lots of gambling and card playing. Lots of drinking and smoking of cigars.
Right. Wow, that's, yeah, wouldn't have guessed that from the energy that I feel from this little one. She's so zen, so grounded.
Yes, but that's because she just finished those gluttonous lifetimes.
Okay.
Because part of people experiencing that is this get even with the system energy. And her life
Right.
review was very much get even with the system. For as much bad as you may have done, you still did good for the rest of the people.
Yeah, right, okay.
Okay? Yeah, she agrees. Yes, little criminal. Look at you, little mafia girl.
And, okay, all right. So just to recap on the career stuff, you're feeling into that I should keep my degree as a psychologist going,
Yep.
and to expand on that with some form of doing hypnotherapy or life regression or something like that.
All of that combined, hypnotherapy
all
and
of
life regression, past life regression as one modality. And you can
Okay.
use it to heal a variety of other psychological issues. You can take
Okay.
referrals from other psychologists with hard patients that have gone through heavy duty traumas that they don't know where they came from, as well as adjusting your past life regression to not necessarily deal with past life, but to deal with traumas from this lifetime, where you can regress a person in a comfortable state so they can go back to heavy duty abuse areas and release the trauma so they can go through full somatic releases, tear-based release.
Right. Okay. Fantastic.
And this is
so not hands-on healing stuff.
No, you can do hands-on healing. Oftentimes when people are having advanced cranial sacral with myofascial, they'll have somatic releases where full-on emotions and repressed memories from other eras come through. I've had it happen to myself dozens of times. That also happens during past life regressions. And learning about it and learning hands-on processes to help people deal with that is beneficial also for you. Very beneficial. That's right up your alley.
How do you say it? The microfascial, how did you say
Myofascial release.
And sacrocranial.
Cranial sacral with myofascial release, correct.
Okay, that's interesting because that's what you told my husband he should get is a cranial sacral, whatever.
Yeah, because he needed pressure taken off his cranium because his head, all of the muscles on the back of his head are 10 times too tight than they should be.
Yeah, and the lymphatic drainage is
he needs that major.
Yeah. Okay, so all right, so that rather than doing any sort of quantum healing, that's what you would recommend for me.
Because I know how fast you would excel at it.
Okay, all right. Okay.
It's the Porsche engine, and you can go and learn all these other techniques, but each one's a different car.
Yeah. Okay.
Here's the keys to the Porsche: the past life regression and hypnotherapies. Here's the keys to the Porsche.
Thanks, I'd love one.
And if you want the Lexus SUV, you can still have the keys to that too, but that's a different modality.
Okay. What would that modality be?
A shamanic soul retrieval style.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Yeah. Or soul shard retrieval process. That is very ceremony, very ritual, and done over a longer period of time instead of, put your hands in the sky and call the lightning down and put them back into the body.
Right, and what would I have to do to learn that modality?
Or
is it not really in alignment?
There are people that teach it, but I'm not going to recommend anyone because you still got a lot to go through before you go to that. Go drive the Porsche for a couple thousand miles, and I guarantee you a teacher will appear by your 1,500th mile, the one that you know you should work with.
Okay, all right, no problem. Yeah, and just quickly, I would be so upset if I didn't ask about my son. I have ongoing from birth difficulties with him, only in the sense that he's very, I think he's very connected and he has a lot of stuff going on at night when he sleeps in the astral, and he never wants to go to sleep, and he tells me he sees monsters and things like that, and I want to know how I can best serve my children and how I can protect him as well.
What year was he born?
2013, 22nd of November.
So is it fair to say that when he was born, that there was a longer birth process there?
Than Aurelia, not really longer, but he ended up being an emergency cesarean delivery.
There you go. That's all I needed to know.
Yeah.
So this is where his issues began. And this is where your issues began with him. And this is where you should have an actual past life regression of this lifetime, so you can so you can reveal the hidden traumas from the C-section. Not all C-sections create heavy-duty traumas, but in his case, it created a complete breakage in the original plan. He wanted to have a natural womb birth instead of a C-section birth.
Yeah, okay.
So it totally changed the way his I am comes into the body. Totally changed. So his whole operating system is every morning he wakes up, it starts too early. It's like, having the remote to turn your car on in an hour before you get up to go.
Yeah.
You know, it's one thing if it's snowing outside and you turn it on 15 minutes before you go out, but turning it on an hour before you go out?
Yeah. Yeah.
His car is ready to go an hour before he goes out every day. So getting him to actually not be afraid of waking up. It's not his falling asleep is fine. It's his waking up. That is where he experiences the most amount of things that make him question the two realities and go into fear. Or just before, during the night, he'll wake up during his dream, and that's where he'll get caught.
Caught with what?
Caught with whatever's going on in the dream and him not sure if he's a dreamer or awake.
Right, okay.
He's at that age, he doesn't know, he can't know the difference like we do as an adults.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say it's time for you to decorate his room with glow-in-the-dark night stuff.
Okay.
And have him imprint onto each piece so he knows where they are, what they are. They have these stickers you can put up that are light reactive. The longer the light's on, the longer they glow. The lesser the light's on, the lesser they glow.
Yeah, I've bought them for him, and I've never put them up because I've never been in a place that's home, if you know what I mean. I've been waiting till we buy our house to actually do that in his room.
You got to do it right away.
Okay.
And then there are other things you can do in the room energy-wise. What I tell people is for themselves to do the four corners of their bedroom. So he's in his own little crib in his own room now, or is he in the crib next to your bed?
He is almost 4, so he's got his bed in his room.
Okay. And how long has he been in his bed in his room?
Well, we just recently moved, but he had his own room beforehand when we were in Sydney as well. Yeah, he was in his own room.
So what I want you to do is in his room, I want you to put protective objects in the four corners of his room and the four corners of his crib. So what you can do is grab any of the contract revocations that are from the website and read those into the crystals with also the intention that you're activating his guides and guardians to be present as sentinels and watchers so his dreams place is clear, so that the four corners of his crib and the four corners of his bedroom have objects of emanation of your presence.
Of his presence.
Your presence, because you're the one reading. You're the one. Hello.
Okay. And so all right, so any particular crystals?
Doesn't matter, honestly. Doesn't matter. Anything that occupies the space. And because he's at that 4.5 year era, you're going to have to realize kids can be energetically dirty, but not negative. They just cycle through so much energy, stuff builds up that's not beneficial to the area. And those crystals that you have in his room, you're going to have to regularly clean and wash. Just as if you would get in there and vacuum the floors every week, you've got to make sure you pick all of them up, clean them with moving warm water, let them rest in the sun for a few hours, and then re-imprint them with the prayers again and put them back into place.
Okay.
And it's fair to say he's going to be all over the house at this age. Why don't you just set 1 or 2 crystals in every other room and do the same thing and allow them to absorb energy? And just as if you would vacuum the floors every week, that you pick those up and wash them heavily and put them into the sunlight and then put them back as a grid all over your house.
Okay. Yeah, I've been thinking about crystal gridding my house for a long time, but I wasn't sure which crystals and what to kind of
Honestly, it doesn't matter about the type of crystal. It's the intention and how you map it physically and in your mind. So if you're sitting in your living room and your husband's sitting next to you and your kid's in the other room, you can have a mind map of how close he is to that crystal. And then emanate energy to it to help your son observe your son, feel the energies that are in that environment, send energies to that particular environment, like a baby monitor, except it's your own psychic grid you've created.
Okay. And so there's no kind of other... I got told that there was some sort of interference that had injected itself into my life, kind of leading to the turmoil and the chaos that we experience so often. I'm just wondering if that has anything to do with what's playing out at the moment with, what's going on, or if it's something that's been cleared, or what the go is there as well.
Well, what was the chaos?
Oh, well, it was ongoing, constantly, never really settled, like my husband's car breaking down for the second time and no work, and we move from Sydney to here, and the rental has mold, which we're going to have to potentially move from, and
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Sounds like a bunch of really tough, fast-made choices that didn't add up the way you wanted.
Not sure about the car.
No,
Yeah.
the car twice in a year breaking down has its own issues with it. It's relative of overworking.
Right, okay.
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 And not you can't tell if the car's going to break down or not unless you're a mechanic. Okay. But therefore, it's reflective of what you were going through, which is having to make rush decisions. Fix the car or have no work. Or have no work, never fix the car.
Yeah. So that's my husband's car that's brand new, that's for some reason had 2 recalled engines. So you're saying that that's just a manifestation of where he's at in terms of needing to not work so hard.
Yep, as well as things that were giving him opportunities to observe himself in his own particular place in life growth.
Okay. And so with the house that we're in now, should we just move to another rental, or with the whole mold situation?
Are you sure it's mold?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. And this is the place you just bought?
No, just a rental. The place we bought is an hour inland in the mountains, and it feels energetically very different. It's
Then
really
why don't you just move there?
Oh, we'd love to. Our contract doesn't start until January, so we've got like 3 months of overlap.
3 months before you can get out, and the one you're in has mold right now. I understand.
Yeah, we're not sleeping in the main bedroom. The kitchen smells. It's just really unpleasant.
And the people that rented it to you aren't going to give you your money back?
I haven't asked yet.
I mean, you've got if you know it's mold, you've got to have some type of renter's recourse here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just wondering whether or not I should just wait it out and just...
No.
Yeah.
Go find someplace else to live on a shorter period of time. And they've got to pay. They've got to start paying. You can't live in that house like that.
Yeah.
Their homeowners insurance, if they even have it, should cover that, because if the mold came up that fast, I bet you it was there long before you came in.
Yeah, most likely. We just never looked under the house.
Right.
Yeah, but that's another lesson for me to feel into my decisions before I make them. So okay. So I guess a lot of my questions have, you've addressed them, and fully appreciate all the assistance and guidance you've given me, because I've been wanting to speak to you for quite a long time now, actually. So I guess in terms of my being here, my purpose being here to assist others, the healing modality is kind of going to assist me with that.
It's what's going to engage the super genius you to begin super study at a heavily happy, joyous rate.
Okay.
Without the joy behind it, your genius won't engage.
Yeah, okay.
Therefore, it's
And
got to be passionate about the material. You've got to be passionate about it, want to learn it. Learning to control the passion and temper the fear into knowingness and learning.
okay. And to get there to, you know, continue on this journey of personal development and accelerate, because things, you know, there's extrasensory perceptions and things, and I know I manifest quite a lot and I feel a lot. I guess that's just in terms of keeping up with prayer and living sacredly and making sure that I do that on a daily basis.
Yes. And if you'd like to have the sample of the right kind of past life regression, the lady that works for me, Debbie Smart, she's been on a bunch of radio shows with me. You can just contact her directly, and she's hr@galactichistorian.com, and she'll tell you all about his sessions and what the years that she learned from it, and you know the type of work that she does. Because what you do and what she does will ultimately become very similar. What Debbie can do is can go to this lifetime and other lifetimes and get to the actual trauma of the memory and release it as charge and polarity.
Okay, awesome.
Release it as negativity and clear out the connections and feeder tubes to those particular concepts.
Okay.
And when you learn the right wording, you can create your own guided hypnosis process for people that have a variety of abuse-based traumas or those that are in depression-based traumas to get them off the medicines so they can fully engage their own placebo belief about happiness.
Okay.
You can make positive happiness programs in depressed people, and they just don't allow creativity and psychology and psychological techniques for it to happen. But through hypnosis, you can do it and make it very effective and feel like the person is doing it for themselves.
Okay. Okay. Now I wanted to ask another really quick question.
Darling, I gotta let you go. Sorry about that.
Okay. All right. No problem.
Thank you so much.
Anyways, we have Michelle with us. Michelle, welcome to the show. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you, Andrew?
I'm doing really good. How did you find out about me?
Well, many months ago, I was listening to a radio show of the N5D broadcast, and you were on there, and a lot of the things that you said really resonated with me, and from that point, I had to find out more. So I listened to all the Galactic history shows. I've listened to some of your reading shows, and I'm just hooked now. So
Well, thank
so
you.
I'm just very honored and grateful that to have a reading with you right now. So.
Okay. Well, you kind of know how this works. You have the Akashic record of this world and 20,000 other worlds open to you. What questions do you have to start off with, or did you want me to jump into something?
Well, I guess I'll go ahead and ask something. So the past several years, I've had to deal with a lot of negativity in my life, and it's just been kind of like this weird alternate reality kind of thing, where it just feels like every force in the universe is working against me, and I just figured there has to be a reason for it. So.
Well, it's not every force in the universe working against you. That I can assure you. It is just multiple versions of yourself who are very angry that you made it there in unawareness, and they're in awareness on two other dimensional timelines, and really quite pissed off because they had all the cool toys, they had all the cool people, they had the hierarchical order, they had the system of domination and control, they had the money, the wealth, the women, the men, the lions, the tigers, the elephants, the zoos, and there you are living your life, and they know that theirs is now going to be just integrated into something that is part of history, and that their existence is not going to be able to prove to the universe that they made a difference, that you are that focal point. So what you are experiencing is the classic form of self-created karma for beings who learned during the second and third timeline paradox that it wasn't the end, and that there was these false light beings going around creating a whole bunch of other karma that got people entrapped and stayed in those second and third paradox timelines. And all of a sudden, you got created on the fifth non-paradox timeline, separate of everything else that all of these other beings were doing in a method that was unpredicted. So that means another piece of a soul shard from another paradox timeline that was really pissed off at you being in the system of domination control became a part of resistance-free Earth, and made a way for you to get out of the paradox timelines and into the non-paradox timeline before it could be created as a paradox timeline. Do you understand that?
I'm trying to understand it. So these are other aspects
Versions
of
of yourself.
soul shards.
These are aware selves who are wizards, sorcerers, scientists that are aware that time is mutable, that consciousness and energy depict the nature of reality. They understand quantum theory, quantum mechanics. They have dimensional technologies. They would be equivalent to Atlanteans or Lemurians, technologically wise. And here you are on Earth, without free power, a system of domination and control, reduced to the lowest common denominator of using your free will or being owned by the system. And you're proving that all of the power and wealth that they have is pointless, that you can do it with a single connected source to the planet.
Okay.
This is your purpose, is to show all of those other versions of yourself, no matter what obstacles you put in my place, not only can I manifest through them, I can transmute those negative energies you are projecting into me to positive spiritual locomotion and protection.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, have you read the contract revocations?
I have read the contract revocations. I've only read it out loud maybe once or twice, I think. And I've actually recommended them to other people, but probably should take a look at them again.
I think it's very, very, very important that you read those out. There are 5 of them: masculine, feminine, government, banking, and media. Each day you try one. So that's 5 days in a 7-day week. And I want you to try that for 3 weeks. And the reason why is you have a bubble of protection around you that is like a lung. It expands and contracts, expands and contracts. And when it contracts, you are in karmic resolution, and that means all of those beings in 1 degree of separation of you project karma onto you. And you naturally absorb it because the DNA lineage that you're in right now is passed on karma to you from Masonic orders.
Okay.
Yeah, do you know about your grandfather or your great-grandfather?
Well, I knew one of my grandfathers, and I don't really know much past that. So
Do you know if anyone in the Masons?
I don't know of anyone in the Masons. Yeah, I mean, I think my mother's father, I know he was very spiritual. I didn't really know him very well.
Did you know anyone that was in the Knights of Columbus?
Yes, my father's in the Knights of Columbus.
There you go.
Or was, or...
There you go. Now,
Okay.
I'm not putting down the Knights of Columbus. That is just a recruiting organization for those people to join the different Masonic orders.
Right. Well, right, and that's a Catholic organization, right?
Yes.
I mean, I was raised Catholic, and I went to Catholic school, and
Right.
the whole thing.
And
So,
I'm not, like I said, I'm not putting it down. It's just a recruitment organization
I get
for
it.
those that have the karma and the energy to go through some higher form of karmic experience. What is being projected at you specifically is the karmic experience of the Masonic order from when your grandfathers, your great-grandfathers, or great-great-great-grandfathers who were invested and involved into those organizations, so that their families wouldn't be affected, but future generations of their family would be affected. So it's a very selfish debt that was created, and when you were born, your DNA lineage went active, and the only way to turn it off is to literally say, I don't believe in it, and do it so much that you can create a whole new layer of sacred space and begin reprogramming your inner reality where karmic debt does not have the immediate credit card swipe on you and just remove the value that it believes from you instantly. Whether it's a person that cuts you off in traffic or somebody that you work with that suddenly comes in as very sexist to you or is talking behind your back for no reason other than to create drama.
Okay.
So have you been having that type of drama show up, work drama?
At work? No. I mean, I really, the people I work with are pretty nice. There might be people who do that, but I pretty much don't associate with them. I just kind of do my own thing.
So what's holding you back?
What's holding me back? From what specifically? I mean,
Your goal of being at the utmost of happiness.
yeah.
'Cause that's a battle I see. That's a battle I've seen and I see in your life path of how happy you can be versus false happiness, where you are just happy enough to make sure that people around you who are anchored into you don't fall apart.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So
Well,
you
maybe
have to be
there's
happy. That means you have to let them go out of your heart.
right, and then maybe there's some guilt there, and
A little shame, blame, lots of shame, blame, and guilt. That's karma. That's ancestral karma. Because
right,
all of those people that you're in the soup of shame, blame, and guilt are sharing what I call the dirty energy underwear with you. They're sharing dream space with you and regularly coming into your energy field at a psychic level and dumping their psychic garbage on you and taking your good energy and leaving. And this is frequently happening 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times per month, which has really disrupted your sleep and dreaming pattern.
right.
So when's the last
Yeah.
time you really remember good dreams?
It's been a long time. I just get bits and pieces, and I mean, after the most traumatic event, actually, I couldn't remember any dreams at all, and it really
Right.
was upsetting to me to not be connected to my dreams. And yeah, so that's a challenge.
All right. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to try to reconnect your dream world for a second. I want you to try to recall the last dream you can remember in some kind of detail. Give me about 30, 40 seconds of it out loud, and I'm going to look at your dreaming body and see what I can do to reconnect it.
Oh, the last dream I can remember. Okay, let me think.
Just any dream. Doesn't matter.
Any dream? Okay, so I had a dream, and this might have been a while ago, but it stood out. My son is sitting at a picnic table, and he turns to me and he says, "Mom, we are in the wrong soul family." And I mean, that's all I remember of that.
All right. Hold on. Stop. Well, you are in the wrong soul family.
Yeah, I know.
You are in the wrong soul family. You are Pleiadian. You are Pleiadian.
Pleiadian, yeah.
You're Pleiadian, but you also have a lot of Orion and Sirian in you. So you gave 50% Pleiadian, 20% Orion, 20% Sirian, and that other 10% is a bunch of other stuff that made the completed DNA lineage that you have, and you just made sure you lived enough lifetimes in other DNA lineages. So if you ever got kicked out and needed to go back in an emergency, you can jump into a skin suit. So you incarnated into this skin suit as what I call it's a parachute soul. At the last minute, literally within seconds of you coming out of the birth canal, the soul that was in the birth the whole time left and you walked in after you were already scanned by the system of the archons to make sure that you were the right soul in the right body in the right skin suit. And as soon as you walked in, the system rescanned you and reclassified you as a what I call a positive threat. That means they couldn't identify what you were going to do, and they couldn't interfere with what you were going to do because it was so unpredictable that they had to allow it to come to some predictability. Between age 2 and age 7, they would have heavily targeted you.
Okay.
So what was like age, when you were growing up to age 7?
Between 2 and 7. Well, I don't have a lot of memories early on, but I would say that I felt a lot of drama in my life between my parents.
Yeah.
Maybe
That's the
there was like
ancestral karma,
competing.
right?
Yeah.
That's what impressed into you the lack that you've had to live in, the lack of abundance of spirit. Even though you had spiritual people around you, they weren't completing your spiritual circuits.
Right.
So now you are in this moment of life where you're thriving for this great spiritual experience, but don't have a community to do it with.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, that's like a big thing with me is
Community.
not having people that I can really relate to and connect to about these things.
And trust.
Trust is a big one.
Yeah, trust.
Trust. I mean, I feel like I've been, and I'm not trying to play a victim. I really am not. But
I know you're not. Trust is not an easy subject matter, and it's really easy to be a victim, and then it's really easy to not be a victim and explain how hard trusting is.
Right. Right.
All right, so I tuned into your dreaming body, and I've got a number of the strands reconnected to your sacrum. So what I want you to do is just I'm gonna do a little bit of light language voice, and I just want you to kind of just mimic what I say. Waha natata.
Waha natata.
Tati yamota.
Say it one more time.
Tati
Wati
yamota.
Yamota.
Anahata.
Anahata.
Yahata.
Yahata.
Wahata.
Wahata.
Napahata.
Napahata.
All right. What that did is actually lowered part of your energy body that's, what I say is your soul is more anchored into your throat than it is into your heart. And I moved it down a level so it's more anchored into your sacrum than it is into your throat. And that'll last 4 or 5, maybe 6 days. It's very, very important that during this time you go and get about 3 or 4 cups of salt, like kosher salt or pink Himalayan salt or Persian blue salt, whatever color, doesn't matter. And I want you to put about a cup of it into a bag and put it over your solar plexus. And if you have to, take a cotton bandage and hold it in place there, as long as you can. If you wear a bra still, you can stick it there, and make sure you do this for as many hours as a day as you can for the next 6 days. It's very, very important. You were just disconnected at a very young age from the natural anchorage point of how your dreaming body goes in and out of your sacrum. And when you're more centered towards your throat, that means you're more of a vocal and communications person, but you're not connected into the dream world of the people that are your 1 degree of separation, your greatest community of spiritual people. And to do that, you need to go back into the dreaming from the sacrum, so the sacrum gets the download, the heart interprets it, and the mind begins to understand, instead of the throat being the experience of the dream.
Okay.
Because right now, if you don't talk your dream out or write it down, you won't really remember it. Especially if you're able to recite it many, many times, then you can, because your throat is the triggering for the body to clear out pathways that have filled up with other excess information that you no longer need.
Okay.
All right, so the next thing is, I think it's really, 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 really serious that you consider an extended form of detox. I said this to the last caller, and generally for a lot of callers, I recommend detox, but for you, I'm gonna be really specific. It's very important that you look at your intestinal tract as your ability to process fuel. And right now, you are not processing the fuel that you need to complete your DNA changeover. So what's been the big change in your diet lately?
Right now, I've tried to eliminate some wheat and dairy, and sugar, but it's not easy. But I've worked on my diet for a while. It's been an ongoing challenge for me.
Have you ever done a detox?
I haven't really seriously done one.
Well, I'm gonna seriously recommend that you seriously consider going and do a series of colonics. You ever had a colonic?
Yes, I've had several colonics. Mm-hmm.
All right. So what I'm going to say is you have a series of colonics, 3 or 4 in a period of 10 days, and then start a 2-week colon cleanse. It's important that you do that you actually get a chance to process the food the right way. Right now, your body's very acidic. It would be very beneficial for you to get a pH balancer for your water. And you have too much chlorine in your water or something else in your water.
Oh, okay, because I have a water filter that I use to take out fluoride.
It might actually be taking too much stuff out. And what it is, the water is too pure, and now what it's doing is pulling it out of your muscle structure. Because what I'm seeing is all of this acidic energy trying to come in and clear out, but with what's going on with your body, it's just really, really, really hard for it to go any further. So you need to clear the gut out, and clearing the gut out will be a massive spiritual release for you. You'll be taking a spiritual dump.
Okay.
You're going to feel 1,000 pounds spiritually lighter when you're done with that process.
Okay.
You're not going to be carrying all the excess baggage that isn't yours.
So what type of cleanse would you suggest? Like,
there are kits out there, a colon cleanse, a 2-week colon cleanse kit. And basically what these kits do is there's a whole bunch of fiber, there's a detox and a cleanse pill, and you take them morning, afternoon, and night. And you got to make sure you're drinking at least 3 quarts of water a day. 3 liters or 2.5 liters of water a day, otherwise you're going to get seriously blocked up. What the fiber pills do is they expand in your intestinal tract, and the detox begins to break down the mucus layer that's holding the heavy layers of toxins, and then your blood goes through the process of dumping more toxins into the intestinal process, as well as the liver, the kidneys, the gallbladder. And this makes a train that's constantly coming out of you for 2 weeks. Those first 4 or 5 days, you are balancing your fluid and returning your body's pH from acidic to alkaline, and once you're in alkaline, you're going to be letting go of the most amount of toxins. For you, it's going to be lead and mercury, aluminum. You got a tremendous amount of aluminum metal in you. Maybe did your parents use aluminum pots cooking when you were growing up?
I mean, maybe I don't know.
Most
that would
people
accumulate in the body all that time. It would be in there.
Yeah, it never goes away.
It never goes away.
There's very few ways to get metals out of the body. That's known as chelation, and you need to be really, really serious about it. There's very few products that actually go through the blood-brain barrier once you're getting mercury poison or any type of other metal poisoning. And this is common. This is really, really common. Believe it or not, most people get their metal poisonings from bread and flour. I mean, every stage of wheat and flour has metal cutters on it that are constantly leaving metal shavings in it. From the point that it's picked to the point that it's on your thing, it might be going through 30 or 40 blading systems that are constantly leaving metal dust and shavings on it. And that's just a dirty part of the industry that people are starting to learn about. Same with potatoes and all those other stuff that have to go through washing and cleaning as the metal bins that they're in begin to break down over long periods of time.
Okay. Wow.
So I want you to do a 2-week colon cleanse along with those colonics, and then I want you to wait a week or two and then start a gallbladder cleanse. That's a 1-week cleanse.
Okay.
And that right there will give you tremendous opportunities as a spiritual being to really have some amazing dream experiences without this debt and luggage hanging around.
Right. Now, as far as the karma, the ancestral karma, like for my own children, how can I'm concerned about their inheriting my karma.
Well, the more you begin to do contract revocations, the more you are going to expand your ability to create sacred space for your children. And once you've created enough powerful sacred space, your karma cannot be transferred onto them because you've defined your boundaries in contract revocation and invocation. And then once you define your bodies, you have to be able to move within the reality. Kids are always moving, going to and from school, to and from house. The same for you. And then you need to begin to create a mobile set of rules that's outside of your sacred space of how you interact with the world. This is where learning how to be a shaman and releasing dense energies from buildings that you go to will be something that it could be very advantageous for you to begin to learn.
Okay.
All right, I've got to move on to the next caller.
Okay. All right.
This
Well, I
has been-
appreciate it.
You are very,
Thank you
very
much.
welcome.
Okay.
Okay.
So we're going to move on to the next caller, and our next caller is Romalie. Romalie, where are you calling from?
Seattle?
Seattle, welcome to the show. What kind of questions do you want to start with?
Well, I took a class with Dolores Cannon a few years ago, and I had a past life regression to a situation of presiding over a ritual sacrifice of my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And I was interested in anything you might have to say about it. I sort of got a download that I agreed to do this, and that I came into life to do this. But it seems, why?
Why? How long ago was this?
What?
The past life regression?
It was, I think, in 2012.
Okay. Just a second here. And just give me the first name of the daughter.
At that time? I don't know.
No, currently.
Phoebe.
1 second here. All right. Well, what's going on here is you have a tremendous amount of religious energy between you and her. And in fact, she has sacrificed you and you have sacrificed her many times. And the first sacrifice that's between you goes back to about 800 BC when both of you were living in the Olmec lifestyle in Mesoamerica. Ritual sacrifice only existed when the DNA lineage got an impure process within it, some form of DNA. In fact, what had happened is the DNA lineage that you were in the Olmec situation actually self-procreated into what we call the long skulls. Are you familiar with the long skulls?
Yes.
So in that scenario, your daughter in 800 BC was born and had a normal head, and then all of a sudden her head changed into a long skull format when she was about 6 months old. And the priests of that era knew that that was a good thing and yet a very bad thing. That means the lineage itself had something had come into it, and there was great change, and there was a sacrifice that was done to the god, the Olmec god of that time, which was Quetzalcoatl, and that was the first perversion of the lineage, and many of the members of the Olmec situations began not incarnating in that lineage anymore. That sacrifice was supposed to stop the lineage being destroyed, but it didn't matter because the curse had already begun from the religious wars that were raging through time. And when we look at what incarnation and reincarnation, it is both a struggle, a battle to find unity and balance amongst all the different soul families that we're trying to mass incarnate into lineages. So for this lifetime, it's understanding that there's great change that's going to be coming from your daughter, and that past life regression that affected you so much is where you have to begin to let go of the birth traumas that were created from the past life sacrifice, both on your side and her side. In fact, she sacrificed you many more times in the future. And one of the reasons you're feeling this is because your soul never got a full life review of what it meant for that lineage change. Is there any other specific questions you want to ask about it? I could help clear it up.
Well, I thought that I got a download kind of during the thing that I had agreed to do the sacrifice before I came into life.
Absolutely, yes.
So who is the agreement made with?
Higher soul to higher soul, because at that point in time, the Olmecs were going to be eliminated from history. All that's left of the Olmecs is their stone buildings that they created that were ultimately taken over by the Aztecs, Toltecs, and Mayans. They're the forgotten society.
Mm-hmm.
Many of the Olmecs went through an ascension process similar to what we are now, where they were the great star watchers. They were the first builders of the Mesoamerican star watching temples, and they were able to transfer their consciousness and leave their bodies here. Their bodies would just turn into light, and they would go somewhere else to another soul family, so that in a future time they would come back to Earth as if they never left the incarnation grid. It's basically a way of checking out of Earth and then coming back into the stream of time like you've never left.
So the idea that I had at the time was there was some purposeful good in this sacrifice.
Correct, because it prevented, well, we'll just call it lizard DNA lineage from abusing the Olmec lineage before it left its frequency of time. So essentially the Olmecs wanted to be forgotten. They did not want their lineages to be hijacked and to be destroyed and to be turned into slaves. So they chose to eliminate that, and the sacrifice was literally to stop the lizard lineage from hijacking the Olmec spirituality moments.
So the daughter that I have in this life is related to the daughter that I...
Exact same soul. Everything is a circle.
Well, it does seem that she's come in for a huge purpose.
Sure. One of those purposes is she's a rainbow child. So she can be a crystal and indigo simultaneously, and she's one of those people that's going to be very powerful psychic if you should choose to train her in that way. She's going to be very sensitive, very, very sensitive. And your imprinting to her is ultimately what's going to lead her to choose a life of business or a life of spirituality or an ability to mix the two. What other kind of questions you want to ask?
Well, I suppose one other sort of residual is whether there was sort of negative karma that I had to work out as a result of that choice.
That's all birth trauma. You've given birth to her, and she's given birth to you dozens of times, and you've had both good and bad lifetimes between there. So that one past life that you've focused on is just that keyhole life frequency that says you've given birth and have had both good and bad issues, and that releasing the birth trauma, the actual birth that you went through with her and every other birth that she had with you, and to heal that process of being an infinite being to suddenly being a finite being in a baby's body that's taking imprint from a mother and father. That's a birth trauma. And I believe in the Dolores Cannon method, they do take you directly back to those moments, and they can release those birth traumas. So it would be a very good idea for you to go to the past life regression persons and say, hey, I've got issues that are going on with my child, and I know that there's birth traumas there, and I need to release those so that you can have what's called a somatic release during the regression, a tearing release.
Uh-huh. So another kind of general question that's not necessarily related to that is whether you can speak to any of the sort of feelings of tiredness and exhaustion that's happening with many of my acquaintances at this time. I mean, is it something that's going on the planet, or is it just specific to us?
In general, we're going through a large state of suppression on the planet right now. What I say it is right now the system is in a does not compute mode, and it's actually suppressing everything on the planet as its blanket archetypical program that it reverts to when it doesn't have control over itself. So anyone that's in the highest creative fields, they're in writer's block. Anyone that's in a standard slave life job, where they're working at McDonald's, whatever, their lives are going to be in suppression, and it's going to take creative people to outcreate something that's desired to be repression. So yes, it's in general into the planet that there's this 6-month wave of energy to try to repress everyone into an older frequency where they didn't have as much power.
It does sort of feel like you're being smushed onto the planet.
Correct.
Like a pancake.
Yep, like a pancake.
Yeah, I mean, it's like there's no feeling of buoyancy.
Because if there was, you would already be a star-watching personality, and you'd figure out how to communicate to the celestial minds that are out there, because hundreds and hundreds of other lifetimes you were a celestial star watcher, whether it was in the Viking Norse myths or in the ancient Greek gods or the Sumerians, you were a star watcher. And there was no science back then that said what the stars were. There was just your belief in creation. And many, many ancient star-watching societies learned how to communicate to other celestial minds, other planetary minds. And that's one of the big draws of your special spiritual talents this lifetime, is to recreate that celestial mediumship within you through star-watching.
I look at your energy, and also I would say that your adrenals seem quite tired, drained. Like your electrolyte level seems low as well.
Yeah.
Have you been doing something out of the ordinary?
Well, I was drinking distilled water.
How long were you taking distilled water for?
I was for probably 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, that's really bad.
Yeah, you need to replenish. You need to get some more electrolytes, minerals back in you. Can you at least swap over to spring water?
Well, I have colloidal minerals. Are they any good?
I think that you'll find that they do help a lot. It's one of the things that you would probably find is when you feel really tired is that the space between your shoulder blades and your waist, the back of your waist, feel tired. Oh, and it's very difficult to account for it because you haven't been lifting anything, you haven't stretched any muscles too far. But that's sort of a byproduct of this, lack of proper minerals and I'm going to say it's electrolytes. That's what it looks like to me. If you can just bulk up those levels a bit, I think you'll find that you have a lot more energy and you don't feel as drained on a regular basis.
Oh, okay. I can do that.
You can go out and get something called Pedialyte, and that's for children that are having diarrhea or losing fluids rapidly, and it makes you retain water. The next thing to do is you got to understand that when you're taking large volumes of distilled water, you aren't getting the minerals, the vitamins, and all that other stuff that naturally comes in the water. And that water is also, the distilled water has also had its energy taken out of it. So you're at a point where you need the natural element of water. So finding a raging river or a big open pond that you can begin to meditate by will begin to bring back a lot of that natural ability to be shapeless and formless. And distilled water is not shapeless and formless. It has been made into a distilled format. So you need that shapeless, formless concept back again where water can go to every direction of your soul.
Thank you.
Yeah, osmosis into the soul.
Yeah. Think of it, your soul as like a dried up sponge. It needs some water.
In layman terms.
Exactly, in layman terms. So what other kind of questions do you want?
Well, I don't know.
Well, I've got one for you.
Okay.
Okay. How many past life regressions have you gone through?
Well, I had one powerful one, and then I got a little snippet of another one, and then I sort of remembered how I felt in the womb before I was born.
Beautiful. Anyone that's ever had a past life regression that can remember the womb, that means it's still there. That means something wasn't stolen from you in this lifetime. We all, at any moment in time, can get back to the child in the womb where we were just a heart with no eyes, no ears, no arms, no legs, yet we still fully perceived who we are.
I recall feeling so excited.
Yes, excited to be coming in.
Yeah, just really looking forward to it.
Mm-hmm. So what are you doing for business and a job now?
Well, I'm a psychiatrist.
I knew it.
And I work not too far from you.
The irony of 1 degree of separation is just really cool. So, Kathy, do you want to ask a question?
I would, I was looking at your energy before about, work and career and all that sort of stuff. And it seems like you're almost, I'm not going to say crossroads, and you're not in a quandary, but it's almost like you're kind of wondering, is there more to this? I mean, what you do is good work. You really help people. You have a lot of satisfaction, yet there seems to be some, unrest within you. I think a lot of that is because you've just got so much that you want to do, and because of your job, you end up not having a lot of time to do it, and you sort of are trying to work out how could you fit everything in, when in the reality it's not how could you fit everything in, it's how could you better manage your time. Because if you could be more strict with your own time, which I think for you is a weakness, you could find that you could fit a lot more in and do a lot more, whether it's a different kind of work, a side employment, or an interest that takes you somewhere else. You could fit it in, but it's all about time. It's a very strange thing to point out, but at the same time, I think it's very relevant for you.
Well, I contemplate every day. I drive over an hour each way, and I contemplate every day, what would I want to do if I could do anything? And it's kind of like I've come to this sort of place where I can't really think of what else I would want to do. I mean, I've not felt this way in my life.
Right, because you've healed so many people in your life, and you haven't had the full acknowledgement of this I am presence of how many people you've healed.
Like it's been satisfying. It's just, like I said, you're not dissatisfied with it. It's just that you seem to need or want something else as well. It's a difficult place to be in because it's confusing. What I'd probably suggest is the easiest thing to do is, why don't you write a list of things that you would like to do? And it doesn't have to be a job change. It could be a hobby, a sport, anything. But write a list. and then nut it down to 10 things, and then think about what kind of time would you need to do just one of them. And one of them will pop out in interest to you.
I got a question. Do you have any mirrors in your bedroom?
No.
No? There is some type of energy that's reflecting in your room that's bringing, I want to say, something that when you were 16, right around 16 years old, there was a time where I want to say there were some limited form of dreams or nightmares that were coming into you, and it's starting to come back now, and there's a portal that's coming in through your room. That's why I asked about the mirrors. I would take a very good look at your room and look at the reflective surfaces that are there that you might not have realized might have been a mirror, like a TV is a mirror.
What does your window look onto?
What?
What does your window from your bedroom look onto?
I
What
look
is
out
you?
on Puget Sound.
I'm sorry,
exactly.
what? Onto the water
Hmm.
and the mountains.
Hmm. Do you have curtains closed at night?
No. I usually have all the doors and windows open.
Yeah,
And I
that's
have a lot of windows.
Yeah, you live in a house of mirrors. You need to start covering those when you're sleeping. It's very important because some of this suppression energy you're feeling is actually the natural empathic energy that you have from dealing with clients too. So when you go into your sleep, you need to no longer be completely open so anything can just jump in. Something that people got to know about the Puget Sound in the Seattle area, lots of people died in those waters, both from storms and violence and things that just happen. And you can't be an open portal anymore. You have to take very concise efforts to protect your sleeping area so that you can connect with their dreams.
Uh-huh. Now when it storms, I usually open everything up.
That's a little different, storming. Kathy, what do you want to add about having, windows open during your sleep?
You know, it's a double-edged sword kind of thing. It's like, I understand you love the breeze, but at the same time, you're at your most vulnerable when you're asleep. So, all sorts of energies are free to move in and out. What I would say is, if for the short term, why don't you try closing the curtains? If you have to have the windows open, at least close the curtains for just a small measure. And then look up on the internet.
I have no curtains.
Oh, no curtains. Can you help hang a sheet up there?
I think you need to invest in the curtains.
A big towel. But have you heard of a thing called a bakwa?
No.
It's an Asian thing. They use it a lot in feng shui, and it's like a hexagonal shape. It's usually that's about the size of your palm or a bit bigger, and there is some ancient symbol, let's call it, on it, and it has a lot of mirrors. And what you do is you put it outside the window, so it's on. So if you were to go outside of the house and put it above the window on the wall that's facing the lake, and just leave it there, because what that does, and why they use it in Asia, is if there was some energy or entity or spirit, whatever is around, they will come to your, let's say, window, and they will see themselves in this special bakwa mirror, and you will scare them.
How do you spell that?
I'll have to think. Let me think, and I'll get back to you on that one.
Okay.
But it's something like BAU and then GAHU, something like that. But I will look it up, how to spell it in English, and then we'll definitely say it again so that you can look for them on the internet. I'm sure you can buy them on the internet as well. But in Asia, one of the most common uses of it is if you were living opposite a hospital or a cemetery. Then they have them all outside the places because there is just so much energy that's coming that whoever lives in that house cannot deal with it. So it's a simple way that you can put something up and already feel more calm inside, and know that if there was some energies coming, that it would repel them by their awful, ugly features.
All right.
Assuming they're ugly. Just be scared of them, their own reflection, basically.
And using the power of the mirrors to your advantage is something that you should literally consider. And then where you work at too, you should begin using these same concepts there. You will notice you'll have a lot more energy. A lot of times when clients come to you, you may not even realize that they're just full of dense energy or things that are observing them. And when you begin to heal people or counsel people, when they leave, their entourage may stick around so that you can heal that light body that didn't understand what it is that you were trying to do. And the use of the mirrors reflects all of that energy back at them so that light body can solve its own problem. We have got to end the call and move on to the next one, but this was really special. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes. Great to talk to you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
That was another really interesting reading.
Yeah, very interesting, especially the little issues that come up, like, water. One wouldn't think of that of reflection, but there was something. Just knew it.
That's why I was asking her. I'm like, well, in your bedroom, she said no mirrors, but every window is open, looking right on the water. That's a double reflection.
Mm-hmm.
People have to realize there's an ancient history behind every body of water that's there. And yes, it's great to look at and it's beautiful when you're awake, but when you're asleep, there's a whole different perception. All the unseen forces are there.
That is so true. And you're at your most vulnerable.
Exactly, because you're in your other dream space.
Mm.